Hello and welcome back, fellow jazz bums. Subject today is ballads. Ballads, everybody knows, feels, intuitively knows what a ballad is. But can you tell exactly? If you go to the dictionary, it's a song or poem that tells a story or a slow love song. It's sentimental ballads. That's what we know the most. They are an emotional style of music that often deals with romantic, intimate relationships, life factors like loneliness, disease, distance, everything. And it's out there to bring us emotions, bring us feelings, sentiments that are very fond, dear, and close to our hearts. But after all, what is it? It depends, I think, on the context. For me, a child of the 80s, a ballad was always a guy playing a pink guitar on a cliff under the rain for his lovely girl, singing, crying, tears, and waiting, looking for each other until everything happens in the end. They finally meet and everything is great. Or it could be an even better, like a power pop ballad, like Roxette style, which is like miles away, better crafted, and also very successful. In music, one thing is common. Ballads, usually you're going to hear a saxophone here and there. Could it be related to the topic that we have today? Maybe, maybe not. Which I think was an interesting thing to pull, to think about. And let's go take a deep dive into John Coltrane, Ballads, some editions, the history, background of the record, and what is it about? What is it about this new UHQR that came out this week? Didn't bring that much eloquence, that much talk about as Love Supreme brought, but I think it could be an even better release, an even better title overall in Coltrane's catalog. Let's go try and understand why. So the year was 1961. Coltrane had already a long run of great records, a career that's really, really getting to a point where he was going forward in his best recordings to be released. He had great records on Prestige. He played with Miles on his great first quintet. He plays with Monk. He plays with Miles again. He releases Blue Train and Blue Note. His absolutely perhaps masterpiece solo record to many. Then he has a great run of records on Atlantic, and then he joins Impulse. Back in 61, 62, he finishes and he locks in that terrific quartet with McCoy Tyner, Jimmy Garrison, and Elvin Jones. One of those great magical ensembles that really resemble Duke Ellington's best formations and Miles' great quintets, for example. But in 1961, he was starting to push boundaries, be more experimental, out there, if you want to call things, especially because he was playing Eric Dolphy, and he was having a really, really bad reception from even critics that had a good view, a good acceptance of his work until then. That work, especially his participation at the Monterey Jazz Fest in 1961, it was met with great rage from the critics. Not only his, but works from Arnett Coleman and others. So he was getting receptions like from Downbeat and John Tynan, like Feder. They were saying this is anti-jazz, this is nihilistic exercises, which sounds interesting. View that rejects generally accepted or fundamental aspects of human existence. So they were implying that they were just going against what things should be, as if there was a definition of what things should be. So, and Coltrane and Dolphy actually, they take that hard on a certain way. They actually write an article back replying to Downbeat magazine as an interview, but they're not necessarily going against or defending their position. They're just explaining that position. And Coltrane says very properly, the music is a reflection of the universe. It's like having life in miniature. You just translating that, putting that into feeling and translating that into what you're playing, not necessarily doing exercise or trying to show this or show that. You're just reflecting this mini universe that's inside of you. And so that's where he was in those days. And just joining Impulse. So Coltrane's run at Impulse started in 61. His very first record is called Africa Brass. Then he releases Live at the Village Vanguard, which would have a follow-up. This record has Eric Dolphy, Then comes Coltrane, that iconic, I think, really under the radar record from 1962 with the blue cover. Right after that, we have 830. A is the catalog number for Impulse. So Duke Ellington and Joe Coltrane. I think this record really sets some important foundations for all the work he was doing afterwards, and it's also a really, really important aspect on Ballads, which we're going to talk about later. And then Ballads finally comes early in 1963, January to be more precise. And after that, we have a record called John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman. Both these three records coming in a sequence, they exemplify that he was not simply going towards that more spiritual, more experimental, avant-garde direction, but he was also showing a very warm side, a very traditional side in a sense, but on Coltrane's approach, not a traditional approach. So after two recording sessions in 1961, late 61 and late 62, Ballads is finally released in January 63. Two kind of interesting reactions. I pulled out this one from that week on New Record Mirror, 1963 by Jimmy Watson. On that same week, records that were released were Frank Sinatra, The Concert Sinatra, Shirley Bassey, Bassey Spectacular, Sammy Davis Jr., Salus, The London Palladium. In jazz, you had Duke Ellington meets Coleman Hawkins, Oscar Peterson, bursting out with the All-Stars Big Band, Quincy Jones Big Band Bossa Nova, and the Three Sounds by the Blue Jeans. On Coltrane Ballads, his review is quite interesting. He admits that he doesn't know much about Coltrane. He hears all the fuss about, and he says, I haven't really heard much of John Coltrane's work, but he's rated very highly by the hardcore jazz critics. He's a forceful player, even on those ballads this shows, and undoubtedly good musician. But I still haven't got the message. He doesn't excite me as Zoot Sims. He doesn't relax me as Stan Getz. Nowadays, reading this, it might sound even funny, but there's a historical perspective. We have to think, looking back, those things were just happening there. So I think it was quite interesting what he says. However, in Downbeat really beat on the record. They gave him 2 stars, saying that it's okay, unimpressive. Coltrane it's okay playing more lyrical music, but he doesn't add anything to them. And I think that's the great point of this record. Coltrane, unlike even ballads that he played in the 50s in his previous prestige work, he's not trying to do anything very innovative here. The songs are very short. He goes very direct to the point. In a few songs, a little more differences there, but usually he sticks with the script. He doesn't do anything very, very often there. Interesting enough, when the band gets together to play, they actually buy sheet music because they had never played those songs together except for All or Nothing at All, which is the last song on side A. And even there's Coltrane's annotation saying it was an Arabic themed song. Actually, very well put out by Ashley Kahn in the liner notes of the new release. It's more towards a Latin, mostly pushed by Elvin Jones, which is an interesting piece, and we're going to go in detail on those after. However, this album from release has always generated controversy, discussions. People complain about Coltrane being too much out there, or people complaining about Coltrane being too much tamed, traditional. All these albums with Ballads and Coltrane with Johnny Hartman, they came because of the critics. They decided he wanted to show them how great he was, as complete. He could play anything, anytime, any way he wanted, and that he will also work under a concept. He won't just stretch in any direction just to show his feelings, but he was able to adhere to play in a concept. And Coltrane also said that Impulse was interested in having what they might call a balance sort of things, a diversified sort of catalog. And he found nothing wrong with that. He actually was a big fan of ballads. He says that I love those ballads and I play them with a lot of passion here. I'm really into ballads. And if you think about on the age that he grew up as a teenager, they were more exposed to in the movies, in the radio. All those are very established standard songs sang by so many. And that definitely was a big part in his his development, in his growth as a musician and as a regular listener, casual listener. So this is the original release that comes out in January '63. That's the original mono record, Ballads, A32. A couple of things help identify this record, especially on the label. Of course, you're going to look for a Van Gelder stamp and all of that. However, very important, at the very bottom here at the label, it has to say a product of AMPAR record group. Later pressings are going to be saying ABC Paramount. Plus, the label itself has to be A32, not A32A. So that's the record was already, as we know, recorded at Rudy Van Gelder's studio, Englewood Cliff. It was recorded as a stereo, and we're going to go in detail over that. Also, again, the band was working on sheet music and make their annotations before the release. The liner notes are from Gene Lees. Gene Lees was a very important critic of those times. He was Canadian. He wrote for many publications, and he also was a translator. He translated and he put into English words lyrics such as Corcovado or Quiet Nights or Quiet Stars for Jobim, and consequently the Stan Getz record that came late next year. The photography is by Jim Marshall, which was hired by Impulse. All the photography, cover, and inner pictures as well. Jim Marshall became also a very important and famous rock photographer as well. He became very, very close to many artists and have some iconic pictures in rock and jazz music history as well. Lastly, on Ballads, I think it's a very relatable record. I think Ballads, they speak to the heart. They speak to the minds of people. Everybody has a certain ballad or a certain moment of their lives they can relate to a ballad. It could be sad, could be happy, but all those songs are very easy to remember. They evoke us memories. They just are there with us through our entire lives, no matter where you're from. So I think in that sense, Ballads perhaps is one of his most important works, because many tracks that we know that were in this record, only a few had previously been done by jazz artists like You Don't Know What Love Is, I Wish I Knew, and What's New. After the rest of the songs were released in this Coltrane record, they definitely they became ballads standards that endure the test of times, and we're still with us to this day. The interesting parts to me in this record, and I think overall as a product, is a very cohesive recording. The songs are a very uniform kind of tone, in a sense that the sound is really well recorded, presented, song after song. You can deep dive into those melodies and kind of get sunken into it. It's really, really beautiful. McCoy Tyner's playing seems to have borrowed a lot from those Duke Ellington sessions. You hear traces of Ellington-esque kind of layers and sounds in this recordings. The way he interchanges with Coltrane gets out across really beautiful, really lyrically. As many times, McCoy Tyner is sort of leading, setting the mood, setting the pace, and Coltrane, but he kind of steps back once Coltrane comes in with the horn, delivering this very heartful solos, these beautiful, beautiful solos that come across, they fill the room and really draws the listener, but it's really engaging, very connecting with the way the horns come. And the whole rhythm section, this amazing trio, the way they play, they set the background. It's not boring. They are very active in the background. You can hear amazing brushwork, amazing bass lines by Jimmy Garrison, and when it's their solos too, they shine. Absolutely. Today I'm going to speak a little more about this new release that came out, the UHQR, and put into perspective with a great 33 that was put out by Analogue Productions 4 years ago in 2020. So initially, that's the original mono record. My copy is really, really clean, plays perfect. Overall, it's a great sounding record. It's very powerful. It's very typical Van Gelder mono, one of those impulses. A good detail and separation. Horns here, drums here, bass and piano floating towards the center. However, I don't feel it's a very dynamic presentation. The piano sounds a little constrained, though. You don't have a lot of dynamics there. I don't listen to highs and highs, lows, lows. It seems to be a little confined to boundaries in the mid-range. The horn, the saxophone comes amazing. It's beautiful. There's a full sound. It lacks some detail, as you're going to see later, but still very good. I think also the brushwork. The brushwork is not. It's there. It feels. You can feel like the brush is like feeling the background, the hi-hats, the right cymbals. But again, like the piano, they're a little hidden there. I wish I could hear more, feel more detail there, attack, a little more of that. So the mono, of course, is as a historical aspect, is rare. It plays beautifully. If you want to have a really nice mono experience. Next, then next will be a newer release. It came out in 2020. One of the first releases in the acoustic sound series. This is Ballads by Coltrane. There's a stereo presentation. That's by Ryan Smith, done by Ryan Smith. Really, really nice rendition. Cover. It's a heavy 180 gram record. First thing I note from the start is if you look at the original, how thin the run-out groove is compared to this 33, which is a much wider run-out groove. So you can really tell that Ryan was really, really avoiding getting too close to the center and get a more cohesive, better presented sound. What we achieved here was an amazing result. This 33 is a great presentation of this record. It has dynamics. It has nice, cohesive, fast bass, snapping. You hear a lot better the brushes. The piano comes clear. You hear the punch of the keys. The keys have a lot more dynamics, a lot like highs, and very, very good transient between them. And the horn has more detail too. You get more of the breath, the air coming through. It's a really great experience. It's an amazing, really well done copy. It sounds like somebody just shone a light on it. I really like this 33, and was my go-to copy for a long time, and still probably is. I'll still be enjoying this copy. So now let's talk about the latest release, also done by Brian K. Smith, released as a part of the UHQR new series on acoustic sounds. Little controversial in a sense. He always sparkles this discussions. Oh, it's too much. Do I need it? How much better it is? The title is boring. Blah blah. And I think again, it's one of my personal favorites in Coltrane's discography. It's a really important record in his discography. Coltrane, although known for more of his avant-garde spiritual work, he was no stranger to ballads. Ballads has always been part of his repertoire, his life, and he was a master, amazing player. So just to get this out of the way, I mean, everybody sees these boxes all the time. So this is the UHQR. Beautiful box, gotta love it. This is number 8 on the series. It goes right next to Love Supreme. It comes with a really, really nice, I think to date, this was the best booklet that came in the series in terms of explanation, details, content, pictures. To me, this is my favorite by far on the series. And here's the jacket. The jacket is really nice. No defects, pretty much no seam splits, anything. And this is number 119. One thing I noticed for most reissues in general, The original cover is more on the green tone. The new represses, they usually tend to have a more red kind of tone. And here are the records. They come, of course, separate from the jacket, as we've been seeing in this latest releases. Very thick, very heavy, very flat. And this one, I Love Supreme, I think they were the most silent I got so far. Of course, always running the machine, but they came out really, really, really well. So just as a recap, so this record has 8 songs, so 2 songs by side. There's Say It Over and Over Again by Jimmy McHuff, which opens just so beautifully the whole record. You Don't Know What Love Is by Gene DePaul, Too Young to Go Steady by Jimmy McHuff, All or Nothing at All by Arthur Altman, I Wish I Knew by Harry Warren, What's New by Bob Haggard, It's Easy to Remember by Richard Rodgers, and Nancy with a Laughing Face by Jimmy Van Huysen. There's a lot of controversy about the song. It was made for Sinatra's daughter, Nancy. Actually, the original name of the song was Bessie with a Laughing Face, not Nancy. So there you go. Bessie Smith inspired song, not Nancy Sinatra. But overall, just a beautiful presentation. The record came flawless, pristine. And just a couple of observations. I just found that you can retrieve even more detail. Remember, the 33 is already outstanding for what it is. This is a 45 format. So, of course, it's laid out completely different on each side of the record. It's presented very differently. I think whatever the 33 was bringing, shining, it looks much better now. It sounds much better. Not 100% better, but there are marginal differences there. I think in What's New, for example, by Bing Crosby, Eternalized by Dexter Gordon, I think the brushwork, the way it comes through, the McCoy Tyner's intro there, you hear more. It's like you hear every single bristle of the brush. You know, You Don't Know What Love Is. It's a song that has been Ella, everybody, Miles on his Walking record. They made such great renditions of the song, and here is no different. I think Coltrane has really set really high for the songs as well. All or Nothing at All is the most intricate song in a sense, not the longest one. All the songs here, they stay below 5 minutes, some below 3 minutes, which is impressive for a Coltrane record that period. But this complex piece has, that's the only one that the band had actually played together before recording this record. So perhaps that's why there's a little more room there for certain improv, certain more freedom taking with the original concept. But overall, it's a record where Coltrane really sticks to the originals. He doesn't change much. He doesn't go out there that much. And what is this UHQR is bringing is more detail. The piano keys, you can hear them beating hit a little harder, clearer. The transients, I found the decay to be amazing. The extension, the notes, they really float in the air. They take a lot longer to decay. I think it depends on what equipment you have, on what type of speakers, everything, in order for this to be properly presented. Okay. The 33 is already by Chad, by Acoustic Sounds, is already like a really, really good. And again, the UHQR is not for everybody. It's not. It's a different thing. And if you really want to stretch that to get that, I think it's a great investment. And Ballads, for having only 4 instruments and playing so slowly, so melodically, so lyrically, so smooth, sucks you into those songs and in a very relaxed kind of way. And the instruments are so well lined up, so well defined. I think if you're willing to invest on that, that's great. You won't regret. I think it's a really good one. If you don't want, that's fine too. 33s are great. I mean, again, this doesn't go like miles and miles, doesn't blow anything out of the water, but it has a perfectly silent record. It has more details than the instruments, the way, again, the notes, they fly, they decay around. You hear even more of the breath of the saxophone. Some people mention little distortions here and there. I didn't hear it. Could be a matter of setup, cart, or anything. Actually, Ryan Smith on the liner notes, he says that in a few moments he had to filter out some of the some distortions, the right cymbal. Other than that, no. So my final take, it's a beautiful record, regardless. It's my probably favorite Coltrane record along the Johnny Hartman. Although I like the later phase as well. To me, these are the ones that speak closer to my feelings, to everything. And I really had to drop a take here. I think it was beautiful work they did. But I think it's a record that's so well recorded. If you don't want to have this, you know, you don't have to. If you cannot have to, you don't have to. It's just a little extra there. It's a little fancier thing that if you can, if you want, great. If not, that's perfectly fine too. And again, thanks for watching, and see you on the next video. Thank you.